I'm coming at you live on tape from Sydney, Ohio. And this week we're talking about halftime heat. Now, for those of you who don't know what halftime heat is, which I assume is a lot of you because it doesn't happen anymore, during the Super Bowl, they have a halftime show. Well, during the 90s and before the 90s, this halftime show, if I can talk, was not a big thing. It started to become a big thing in the 90s, but before that, it was not a huge thing. And stations would put counter programming on during the halftime show in order to get viewers to turn away. Now, part of the reason for this was Super Bowls during the 80s and even during the 90s were typically blowouts, with one side leading by 14 or even 20 points in the half and just blowing them out in the second half. And another reason for this was because, once again, the halftime shows were not a huge deal. Now, in the 90s, this started to change, but did not really become a big thing until the 2000s. So in 1999, WWF, which was what they were at the time, they were not WWE yet, decided to make a program called Halftime Heat, which was their Sunday program was called Sunday Night Heat, and they decided to do a special edition of it during the Super Bowl halftime show called Halftime Heat, which was going to feature a match between The Rock and Mankind, an empty arena match for the WWF World Championship. Now, The Rock and Mankind had been feuding over the WWF Championship since January. Now, The Rock won the championship in November at Survivor Series the year in '98 due to Vince and Shane and their interference forming the corporation. Mankind had beaten him for the championship on January 4th of that year due to DX's interference. And it was one of the highest rated segments at Raw at that time, because WCW spoiled the ending of Raw, thinking no one would turn over, and tons of people turned over to watch Mankind, also known as Mick Foley, win his first world championship. So they competed then at the Royal Rumble in a I Quit match, which is it's probably my favorite Rock versus Mankind match, because it is just brutal. Mick Foley took a lot of unprotected chair shots to the head because he was handcuffed, to the point where his family, who was at ringside, left ringside and went to the back. So they quit filming his family at ringside, and his wife had a talk with him about what the children should be watching, and he did not want to have that talk again with his wife. So then The Rock won the title after you heard Mick Foley say, "I quit." Well, it was then revealed that Mick Foley was unconscious, and it was a taped recording of Mankind saying, "I quit." So then they scheduled this halftime heat show between Mankind and The Rock in an empty arena match. Mankind went on to win the match, which was part comedy, part real match, with Mankind pinned The Rock under a forklift pallet full of, I think it was crates or something, and pinned him 1, 2, 3, and once again won the world title. They went on to St. Valentine's Day Massacre that year, which was the February pay-per-view, and Mankind once again kept his title in a last man standing match because they knocked each other out. Then they went on to face each other on Raw one night in a ladder match, which The Rock won after he disabled Foley's leg. Setting up The Rock versus Austin at WrestleMania 15, which is well known. It's a well-known match. The next year in 2000, they had another halftime heat. This time there was no match involved. Now, the 1990 halftime heat drew 11 million viewers, so it did well. It was the highest rated heat. It was the highest rated heat up till that point, and one of the highest rated WWE programs up till that point. Drew a 6.6 rating and 11 million viewers. 2000 decided to do another halftime heat. This time they shown footage of the Dudley Boys and Hardy Boys match from the Royal Rumble and the bikini contest from the Royal Rumble, and did a live interview with Stone Cold Steve Austin, who was recovering from a neck injury and neck surgery. Needless to say, not holding a live match was a mistake. I cannot find the ratings for this, but considering they didn't do one in 2001, I'm guessing it did not do well. I'm guessing it was a bit of a disappointment in ratings, and so they did not do one in 2001. They, however, did bring it back in 2019, doing it under the NXT banner. Now, this was a fallout from NXT's recent pay-per-view, NXT TakeOver Phoenix, where they had 6 men brawling at the end of the pay-per-view that was not shown on camera, but was shown before halftime heat, which made it a 6-man tag match. Now, let me get a little rant out of the way. I do not like impromptu 6-man tag matches. If you're a team, I'm for it. But if it's just heels versus faces because people were brawling, I'm not for it. I'm not for every heel and every face, every heel being willing to team with every other heel, and every face being willing to team with every other face. Some faces may not get along with some other faces. Some heels may not get along with some other heels, and so they're not going to want to team with each other. That's just good character work. And so I'm not for this. But that was basically a 6-man tag match. All the faces on one side, all the heels on the other side. And it drew 3 million viewers. It was not on TV. It was on the WWE Network, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. And it drew 3 million viewers. And is the largest NXT, and it was the largest NXT viewed show in history. I don't remember the guys who fought. I remember Tommaso Ciampa won, his team won, and Adam Cole and Johnny Gargano's team lost. But I don't remember all the guys. Those were the halftime heats and my little rant about bad character work. They only did 3 of them, and they haven't done one since 2019, though 2019 one was successful. I guess not as successful as they wanted, though. And as you can see, people don't make counter programming really for halftime anymore, because halftime's a big event anymore. So, join me next week when we'll talk about something else.